Yay! Hey friends! Today I'm going to be showing you how I create a basic patchwork. Now, these are on backing fabric, not on like a larger piece of fabric to be held by an embroidery hoop, but the technique is the same. If you're going to be creating it and using an embroidery hoop, of course, you want to make sure that you have, I don't know, I think I usually do like 5 inches, 4 or 5 inches larger than what my collage piece is going to be. And so, whether or not I'm making a really small patchwork, a medium patchwork, or a very large patchwork, like a 24 by 24 inch, I use basically the same technique. This is my favorite tool. It is a Dritz washable fabric glue stick. You can get these in my web shop. I'll put a link below. You can also get them at most craft stores. I know you can get them at Joann's. You can also get them in a lot of quilt shops. Support your local quilt shops. If you don't have a glue stick and you like using pins, um, I like the little clover ones, which are also really easy to find. These are applique pins, so they're really short and feel like um, thread gets tangled and caught on it less. I only use these for very, very, very specific projects. You may notice here that I have used basting thread. Now, that's another option. This is actually machine basted, but you can hand baste. I machine baste because I try to limit how much I use my hands because I use them so much. So I try to keep that in mind. Um, but even though this is basted, I will still use a fabric glue stick first. Um, I started doing more basting because I use a palm thimble a lot more. I used to always use a lap stand, an embroidery hoop, and now I do a lot of freeform stuff because it makes me more aware of how much I'm using my hands. So if that is something that you haven't been thinking about and you're doing a lot more sewing, please consider how much you're using your hands and make sure you take care of them. Okay, so first and foremost, um, I usually will use a double cotton gauze, a non crinkle version, as my base or backing fabric because it's easy to stitch through. But you can use anything as long as it's not too tightly woven or too thick because that will add drag. Because we're using, or I use a lot of different fabrics, and sometimes there can be quite a few layers by the time I finish a project. And so I like a backing fabric that's soft and easy to stitch through. So we'll move this one out of the way. And I have not glued this one down yet. Here, I'll bring the camera in a little closer and I will rotate it this way. So what I've done here is I've cut, this one's a little bit wide. Um, I usually overlap my fabric pieces anywhere from a 1/4 inch to a little less than a 1/2 inch. So a minimum of, I think it's 6 millimeters. And I do that because things shift on you. And if you don't have enough of an overlap, you'll get gaps, which isn't a bad thing. You can always whip stitch or add another little fabric piece, or just let it be. That is like a personal aesthetic, I feel. Oh, here's a good one where it's just like a little bit. So on to gluing. So this is really easy to use. If you've used a paper glue stick, it's essentially the same thing. It is important to make sure these are washable. Not that I'm going to wash this, but they're repositionable. So if something shifts or you don't like it, you can actually remove it really easily and then just lightly spritz it and it will become tacky again. And often I feel like it stays like a little bit tacky for a while, so it's sort of easy to reposition it. And what I'll do is, because I have all my layers down already, I might have actually already, did I already glue this? I did. Did I glue all of it? No. Okay, good. This is a spontaneous video, everybody. Um, so usually what I do is I start by um, figuring out what's going to be the easiest spot to keep my patchwork in order. Sometimes I'll take pictures first, and then that way I can just remove everything. Often I work in a series, so I'll have 3 base fabrics, and so I'll start a few, and then often I'll just take one that I've completed and shift it over to a clean piece of backing fabric, and then just attach everything as I'm moving it over. But so all you need is a very light, even coat. Make sure you get close to the edges. I'll lift this up and see. Okay, I did get that one. All right, so I'm just going to put a little bit there, press that down, and I'm going to carefully roll this back and make sure it's lined up. Now this piece here is too long, and I'll just trim that later. So I'm going to gently pat this. This is a silk velvet, so it can be a little bit fussy. It really likes to slither around and move. I'm going to double check to make sure I'm still overlapping. Yeah, these have they're a little generous. I could have trimmed them down a little bit more, but they'll be fine. Now I'm just going to get those all my edges glued, gently press. It takes about a minute to dry, but I'm just going to keep working. And now I'm going to peel this back, get it pressed down, peel that up, peel that up. And again, I'm just working sort of slowly down. I'm going to coat all that. And I'm going to just flip this over. I've already attached part of it. Now I know I'm going to glue this one down first. Put that up. And again, it's a light coating. You don't need to put a whole bunch of glue down. You just want enough to get it to stick. Oops, that up. Gently fold that over. Now this one I think I do. Sometimes I'll keep like a little wet cloth on my table because you sometimes get glue on your fingers and I don't like the way it feels. So I'm going to do that. Now we're going to roll this piece down first. And remember, I've already glued part of that side. Okay, and let's get this little edge here and that edge there because it's going to be overlapping. Gently pat that down. Gently pat that down. I don't think I re-glued that. Okay, and so some of the fabrics I'm working with are a little trickier. Like this is linen, this is cotton, this is a silk organza, silk velvet, slightly toothier linen, vintage kimono silk, some linen that I dyed with indigo. I dyed these two. This is I think this is horsetail, and that is acacia. That is definitely acacia. And this is more vintage kimono silk. And so this piece, as you can see, I already have this piece here, but this is really super thin, and I'm not going to actually trim that down. I'm gonna leave it going all the way across. If it was a thicker fabric, I would trim that. This particular collage piece is going to become a mending pouch, and so it has raw edges, and I'm just going to leave some of these are overhanging on purpose because it's going to be part of my end sort of aesthetic. It's what I want it to look like in the end, is to have sort of these extra. Oh, see, I didn't double check that, so that's all right, because we can just do a little blue right now. Should have double checked that piece. All right, gentle pat, gentle pat. I think I want to reposition this piece. So I want a little more of that red showing. Let's see how easily that came off. I do. I just want like the sneakiest, little bit of red there. So just pull that off, that velvet. So we'll talk about the silk velvet really doesn't like to stick with the glue stick. And these two don't like to stick to each other. And sometimes, I feel like silk is one of the more problematic ones, that it doesn't always like to stick to another silk or to anything that I'm putting it on. Which is another reason why I started basting. This is another fabric that just does not like to stay stuck, no matter what. And using more glue is not what you want to do. If you have a particular fabric that really doesn't want to stay down, you do want to baste it. And hand basting is it's very easy to do. It's just running stitches that are a little extra long, and then just use basic sewing thread. And then you don't use any knots, because what you'll do in the end is you'll just, take a hold of one of the pieces of thread and it just pulls out. But yeah, so I was going to baste this anyway, but if you find while you're working that there's certain pieces that are just popping off, take the time to hand baste them down. It's really, really quick. Yeah, so that's how I make my basic patchwork. Just need a washable fabric glue stick, or maybe some small applique pins, or a needle and thread. And make sure your pieces of fabric overlap a minimum of about 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters, and you will have great success. Okay, have a great day. Bye.